take my armful. There's a problem. I have a C7 issue, and this is the only comfortable way that I can sit. I can tell when the disc is starting to get irritated because it'll be numb in this hand, and then it'll start being painful at my forearm. So if I sit like this, I'm just trying to be comfortable.
Sure.
So we ready to go on the record?
We're on the record.
Okay. We have put together, number one, I think that you currently have the offer on the table of using rollback money or a portion of the rollback money as a bonus.
Yes, that's our understanding.
Incentive.
To me, you're fine.
To an extent, yeah. There's some statutory and practical problems with doing that, which would prevent it to be done probably. I'm not sure you could get it done until 2 years from now, because the statute requires all fund balances to be rolled into the current budget. So all that money is already there. The only money that wouldn't be rolled into the budget would be any rollback issues that occurred from the date of the final budget hearing and September 30th. So we're talking about a month or two, and then that's kind of unappropriated monies, if you will. So that just makes it problematic. Then from a practical standpoint,
okay, wait.
It just doesn't work.
Okay, so before that, though, let's talk about the rollback issue.
Okay.
Can we unpack that a little bit?
Well, the rollback is in essence a fund balance. So every account's fund balance, which is monies that were budgeted but not spent.
Okay.
By statute has to be brought into the budget. So that money has already...
Okay, so when you say brought back into the budget, what do you
have to be considered as a revenue item for this year's budget.
Okay.
So they look at, when they're building the budget, they look at the fund balances that exist then. They try to estimate then what the fund balance for each account is going to be for the end of the fiscal year that ends September 30th this year. And they use that amount then in building the current budget. So the monies that are...
You mean they take that money and put it into...
It's not taking it. It's still in the cities, but they look at it as a revenue item. It's like school districts have the same problem. You have a single budget, and anything that's not spent is considered to be fund balance. The first line item on the next year's budget is the fund balance as a revenue item. And then you have your appropriation, then you have your supplemental levies, and you have all your other things. So it becomes by statute, a revenue item that has to be built into the current budget. So it's...
What statute?
I'll get that to you.
Because I've been through the state statutes on municipal funding, and I haven't seen anything like that. I did see
50-1002. And so it's halfway down or a third of the way down. It says specifying any fund balances accumulated under section 50-1005 capital A. And so that's the accumulation of fund balances. So they can accumulate fund balances, but they have to be built back into the budget. So what I'm saying is the fund balances that are going to be, that would have existed at September 30th are already spent.
Into next year's budget.
Into next year's budget.
Well,
so
how does that square, though, with the reserves that have been built up with what has
Reserve is different than a fund balance.
Well, I understand that it's different, but my understanding, and Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, based on previous meetings, was that those fund balances were being put back into the general fund to meet the reserves. So, they've been moved.
So it's a revenue item that can be appropriated however the budget writers want to do it. So
why can't it be appropriated in this way?
Well, my understanding is it's already been appropriated into this current budget, so it can't be pulled out without reducing other items that have already been budgeted for purposes of giving an incentive payment or a bonus, however you want to calculate it or reference it, for this year, which means that...
Okay, though, but wait. So I'm trying to understand. So it's money that can be put back into the general fund if they so choose to do that.
It's always in the general fund.
But it cannot be dispersed via a retention bonus or whatever terminology you want to use at the end of the fiscal year, because it's already spoken for or
Yes,
earmarked going forward.
It's already been budgeted to other places, whether it be it was used to build up the reserve fund, or it was used just as a general revenue item in the general fund.
But if the budget has to be approved, when does the budget have to be approved, Ashley?
The L2 has to be to the county by September 6th.
Okay, so if the budget has to go to the county by September 6th, then how is it possible that, because you don't even know until the end of September exactly what that balance is going to be, so how is it possible if it's to be in the September 6th budget if you don't know what the balance is until September 30th?
As I explained a few minutes ago, when the budget writers are starting, they know on a month-by-month or daily basis for each budget item of each department how much of their budget they've spent. Okay? So when they're building their budget, they look and they say, it looks like this amount is not going to be spent unless there's a change, unless there's more spending between now and September 30th than has happened prior to this date. So they estimate then what that fund balance is going to be. They use that amount then as a revenue item to build the budget. So if there's a change between the final date that the budget is passed before the appropriation ordinance, which usually occurs in August, so we're only talking about a 30-day period, they can adjust it if they look back and verify that, adjust and say, oh, this anticipated fund balance is now going to be less than we anticipated, or it's going to be more. So generally, the only amount that is not appropriated in the budget would be any additional fund balance over and above the estimate that occurred in September.
And so we would, but you could write it to say the fund balance then as of August 1st.
Right, you can still plan it.
Well, but what I'm saying is for purposes of right now,
right,
those monies have already been spent because they're included in this year's budget.
But this is something that can be looked at as a contract item to be written in.
So what I'm saying is that the soonest you could get it would be a year from October.
But why can't it simply be changed?
Because then it has to take money from other places. Because you have to have the appropriation ordinance. The appropriation ordinance has to equal whatever the budget amount is, and that has to be done in August so that the property tax certification goes to the county in September.
But it's May. It hasn't been done in August. Because we're not in August.
But the budget for the most part is I don't know how far along you guys are, 80, 90%.
We're to revenue projections next 2 weeks.
Well, right, but that doesn't, so it hasn't been spent then.
Yeah, it's already been applied onto the expenses.
But only as a projection, not an actual dollar that's been spent. So it's
but if you're
there.
projecting that we're going to have $800,000 from fund balances, and you're wanting to take $800,000 out, you've got to reduce already identified expenses by $800,000. So you have to have a fairly radical change to the budget at this point in time.
Okay, then let's make it.
Is this all on salary savings, right, that we're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, I see that. And I'm just going to give you my end of it.
Go ahead.
The tough part for me is that I don't think we use that much of the money. We've never really used much of the salary savings. But when you do use it, right, if there is something that comes up as a department head and you go, all right, and you get the okay to do that, how much trouble is that going to cause internally, right? So all of a sudden there's a Bearcat, whatever. I'm just throwing something out there that it's a swinging deal of the year, and you take that money, right, to buy something like that. Now you got the troops looking at it going, well, in the end, that's money. How much of a problem is that going to cause? And how do you adjust that, or how do you fix that? Those are to a point, it kind of becomes a management thing. I get when there's money left over at the end of the year, if there's a way to look at it. I mean, we've talked about it before, but I can see that if you try to lay it out and go, okay, this is how we're going to do it, I see that building some pretty big problems.
Well, and I would agree with that.
Down the road. I don't know how you fix that.
No, I understand that, and I would agree with that if the proposal was to take all leftover monies from the entire budget and allocate them as a performance bonus, because then it wouldn't allow for something like that, right? Which is why we limited the request to money that's already dedicated as a line item to wages, right? So that it's not, we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're not taking the rest of the budget that could be used.
But what I'm saying is that's the money I am talking about, right? I'm talking about salary savings. So salary savings, to me as a chief, is not my money. That money belongs to finance. So I don't budget for salary, right? My budget is operational. So I set my operational budget. They look at personnel and say, this year, at this many people, this is how much money you get. And I think they budget it full. Whether I'm full or not, they budget it full, correct? Because we're always trying to get full. Now, halfway through the year, something comes up, and I'm locked flat on my operational budget, and I can use some salary savings if I go through the proper channels to get it. Right? So that thing comes along, and I go to the mayor and say, hey, look, we want to buy this thing. We don't have operational money to do it. We want to use salary savings because we have it. We have this much. Right. That's where I see the problem, right? So now you buy that piece of equipment, or you buy that dog, or you buy whatever it is that comes along that you can get, and you use salary savings. Now, some people might be happy about the purchase, and other people are going, you're taking my bonus money in the end. And do you get to a part where people are going, don't hire, let's hold off because we're looking towards bonus money. I just see some problems with it, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying I see some problems with it.
Right, so as to the first issue, I think that if you just look at the historical performance of the department, it's probably not going to be that kind of an issue where the department has been coming in $700,000 to $800,000 under budget every single year, and approximately half of that is salary. And so that's really what we're saying is we'll take half of that and put that in the form of a performance bonus, which would still leave you annually typically $300,000 to $400,000 extra for those types of things if such a thing comes up. Now, looking at the fiscal performance of the department, history suggests that it doesn't really come up where you're in a pinch that way where you're pushing clear to the end of the budget. And so I would say that while that's a valid concern, the history and the performance of the department suggests that it's not going to happen.
But it only takes once.
That's right.
And I guess that's
and
my
so we want to
thing.
lock up half of it, though. We want to lock up half of it because the truth is we're still dealing with a department that's underpaid. And so while the issue that you raised, that's real and that's valid, I think we also need to, at least come somewhere in the middle where we set something aside for that. And so that's why that was our proposal. Particularly where it doesn't have to come from new money and would represent approximately about a 5% bump.
Or zero if you're full, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right, yeah, or zero if you're full. But at least it alleviates the pressure on the city to find new money to pay the officers with in that way. Now, obviously, if going forward we get to a point where you're full and there's never any money there, then obviously, we'll have to ask for a raise to come from somewhere else. But for now, while that's there, it seems like an easy way to fix that particular issue.
Basically, we're rejecting the proposal.
Okay, do you have a counter proposal, or are you just saying no?
Yes, we have a proposal.
So our first counter proposal is to your proposal 2 or Exhibit U4, which was the police chief selection committee. It's a simple change of where it is in the contract, so there is a revision to that. There's 2 typos. Have pity, it was a long morning. And then there's a line added that avoids a conflict of interest. So if you are an applicant for the chief position, you cannot serve on the search committee. Sometimes it's better to fix the problem before it becomes a problem. This one's for Andrea.
Thank you.
Oh, this one's for Andrea.
Is this supposed to be for me?
It's the same.
Yeah, that's one of my applicants. Would you like to review that? This is one that would be TA.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
See, go ahead and read those up for me and let me know what you think.
That's okay.
So the changes to the location, I added Article 20 to the CBA, which is just chief, and then added the yellow line at the back. Any concerns on that?
No.
We've got an interlineated correction of the 2 typos that I can sign off on.
Where are the typos at? Sorry.
The,
Second line, appointed to, should be the.
that hard word.
To a chief.
And then the last word of the last paragraph should
I
be
like that.
section.
Yeah.
It's the chief.
This is the chief.
He's like, eh.
Sorry, chief. It's an eh.
All right.
And this is TA number 5.
Remember we did 4 before. On the third line, did you get the members? Yes, after member.
Yeah, you're so demanding.
Well, while we're looking at it, might as well be that member.
I was doing this with my cell phone and
Should
my
be other
MacBook
members.
last night. Yeah. Boy
Of
Scouts.
course, it would be easier if there's only 2 of us on the selection committee.
Well, it'd make it very entertaining debate. Okay, it's fixed up there. We'll make sure it's right in the minutes.
You can just fill in what number it is.
Yeah.
Sure.
Are you guys? Are you okay?
The next one's even longer, so if there's typos, just have pity and let me know and I'll reprint it. I don't think there's any memos attached to this one. So this is our counter proposal to.
It's a 4-part,
Yeah.
connected, won't be piecemeal.
So there's 4 parts to this. It's an all-encompassing proposal with all 4 parts that must be taken as a whole. Part 1 addresses sworn officer pay and is a counter proposal to your last union exhibit, U11 from May 8th. This is an adjustment to the chart itself. So we've added a step 7 and 8 to your master levels. 7 and 8. This is built to match what general employees get on the hybrid table. So this is just an example of what it could look like. The change percentage will be implemented at P40 step 1, and then it ripples through the chart. Master Patrol step 7 and 8 are a 1% increase. Master Corporal and Master Sergeant are 0.5% increases. We've also changed the percentage to step 4 from 1.5 to 1.75. The second part of this is part 2 of the proposal is addressing civilian pay, which is a counter proposal to Union Proposal 8 or exhibit, I think it's U11. It's hard to read because we took a lot of stuff out. Basically what it says at the bottom there in the clean is all civilian positions will receive the adopted hybrid scale increase in step movement as defined by City Council. Section 3 is shift differential, which is a counter proposal to Union Exhibit 8 delivered 4/11. After a discussion that we had, we understand why you're asking for a shift differential increase. However, we believe a graduated change in shift differential is more beneficial than a flat amount. So your rates go up by 3 cents, 6 cents, and 12 cents. And at the bottom of that page is part 4 of the proposal, which addresses what I believe are the only open proposals left on the table. The first one is the FLSA period and overtime, and the second one is the vacation bank increase, and both of those proposals are declined.
We rejected the gym membership.
We took the gym membership increase in workout hours, but rejected the increase in the expenditure
Right.
for reimbursement. After that, you just have the language of the contract that have been adjusted. As you get towards the back, there's the calculation of the percentages. There's an example of the increase between steps. And then the last page is the formulas used to generate the chart. I know it's a lot of data, so I figure you're going to need some time to look at it.
Yeah, we'll need it.
We will.
So between grades staying at 5%, correct?
Correct.
From 2 to 3 is at 2.5%. And then 4 through 6 is going from 1.5 to 1.75.
No. Only step 4 is going up to 1.75.
And
5 and 6 are made at 1.5, and 7 and 8 are your 0.5% or 1%.
okay.
If you go further on in the chart, it shows
4
you.
goes to 1.5, 5 and 6 are at,
It's
sorry,
a-
1.75 at the core.
It's on, Mary, it's on pages 7 and 8. Or 7.
Let's have a caucus.
Yep.
Unless you guys have questions.
I just wanted to make sure that I knew where our percentages were sitting, that's all.
Okay. So we'll take a minute maybe to digest that and then ask some questions.
Let's see where I put us. I think we're in paradise. Because, usually there's more of you, so I got the bigger conference room.
And we're sounding like paradise.
Are we up?
Yes, he said we were.
We're
We're
good.
coast? Okay. We're back live stream.
We up?
Pardon?
We up?
Yes.
Okay. In this proposal with the, we accept the shift differential. And I think all the other ones in there for the most part. The pay grade changes, we'd like to see a little bit more. Reason being Idaho Falls, where they sit, and taking into consideration the 75 cents from incentives that we get, that still puts us substantially behind where they're at. Even if you get to step 8, they're more than $2 behind an hour. I don't think that's going to help a whole lot on retaining our people. I think our people are still going to look to leave. I know there's differing thoughts on that our people won't leave. It's just a bluff. But that's not true. We've lost people. We'll continue to lose people. And the people that we're losing costs a lot of money. We've been over that on the first presentation, I guess, when Brandon was here. But essentially, it takes about 90 days to hire a police officer to get them into the door, to start getting them equipped and not even taken into training at that point. And then about another year going through the academy and the mini academy and 16 weeks of FTO to get them hired and on the street. And then to get them up to a real capable policeman, it's about 5 years on the average, to where they're running on their own, they're making good decisions. They don't need a whole lot of support from anybody else. And when you look at the big picture of it, we have to do something critical to save some people at times. And who do you want going through the door with you to take care of the business that needs to be taken care of? Do you want the 1 to 2 year guy, or do you want the 5 to 10 year guy? And hands down, the 5 to 10 year guy. I don't want to see our department go down the road of other departments that are just to hire them and train them and they go somewhere else for more money. It's been commented that you can't compete with some of these other agencies. but realistically, we have to do something to compete with them, to keep our people here, because retention at this point is everything. So what I'm suggesting and proposing, on your pay scale, if you increase the starting on step 1 for the third class guy, if that can be bumped up to 2311 on that starting, then how you set the matrix from that point on would go a long way in retaining our guys, I believe. Short of that,
2310 is
2311 is.
2311.
P40.
Yep, at P40. Short of that, still at risk of losing people to go other places.
The goal with that is also to recruit as well.
Yeah, with a higher starting there, it would be more attractive than as well. So we'd kind of hit two things on recruiting and retention.
So you want 7%?
Essentially, yes.
So 7% plus the extra steps.
Yes. That'd help with our longevity, keeping people here.
I just have a question. Isn't our starting wage comparable or higher than others?
It's comparable to Idaho Falls.
Well, not currently. No, currently Idaho Falls starts at 2365.
Okay.
Yeah, they
So-
jump.
I just remember we
Yeah.
lifted it, so my question is that where you want to start it?
And what this is going to do is at year 10, we're still not at the level that Idaho Falls is at year 8. Using one of our absolute direct competitors, because Idaho Falls right now at year 8 is at 3002. At year 10, with this proposal, we'd be at 2934. So we would still be less at year 10 than Idaho Falls is at year 8. So we're still behind, but it's a movement in the right direction.
So what I'm hearing is you want to take, as far as part 1 of this proposal, because this is a consolidated proposal, and we're not going to entertain piecemeal in it.
Well, but we made those proposals by themselves, so maybe we can say we're not going to entertain lumping them together.
Fine, then don't. It's fine. Our proposal was based upon a consolidated proposal, so I'm just trying to understand that part 1, you want to take the beginning cell, the 2311, and let the matrix then go plus the extra steps. And the multipliers that are attached to those extra steps, you don't have any concerns about. It's just the starting wage.
Yes.
How about part 2? I don't think we talked about that at all.
And let me make sure that we're understood that that is based on using the current proposed CPI of 2.5% that the city's building their budget on. If the city makes a change in that, then that would be something to be addressed.
I'm not tracking with you, I'm sorry. Because going to 2311 is much higher than the 2.5%, so that's included within that.
That's an adjustment to get them to market. CPI is when we looked at it, we built it using the matrix you proposed and with the changes to CPI, so that we could see where we would end up, essentially. So we're trying to, our goal is to be competitive. And so that's what we're looking at is if we can adjust our base wage and with the adjustment to CPI, where does it end up? And like I said, with that adjustment at year 10, we are still behind year 8 of our direct competitor.
Oh, okay, I understand that, but I'm just trying to figure out what the exact offer is, because
Well, and the proposal-
I'm getting different.
No, I was just making a clarification.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't clear,
The
but yeah.
matrix that you proposed had 2.5% CPI built in, correct?
Yes.
That's how we got
And
the
examples built it too.
That's how we got to the 2214.
Exactly. And so what we're doing is we're essentially just using that as your base here and then adjusting the base wage. I didn't want you to think we were using the current without the 2.5% adjustment. And just a change to base.
I have no idea, but okay.
Yeah, all I'm concerned about is that the current is, I think, 2160, and you're proposing 2311, which is about a 7% raise. So the 2.5 is built into that.
Right.
So it's not over and above. I'm
Yeah,
kind of picking
exactly.
up.
No, it's
It's a
not over and
whole.
above, so it wouldn't be 9.5, it's 7.
It's 7%, this takes to 2311.
No, I get it.
Okay.
Okay, so part 2 is the civilian. Where are we at there?
Part 2, Mary.
So we want to make sure.
Right, so in answer to your question, Scott, the base pay would be at the 2311, which is a 7% increase just as to the base pay, but then, yeah, I mean, they would want the 2.5 CPI.
They want
as well.
7 plus 2.5?
Right.
So you want
9.5.
9.5, which exceeds the 2311.
No. I mean, your base pay would still be. Oh no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. So then it would go to 2369.
So you want 7.5. No, you want 9.5%.
Right.
So your starting cell would be what instead of the 2311?
2369.
Do you have anything on that?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But here's a proposal for that city civilian side. Counter proposal to our proposal of the counter proposal. And pretty much this scale, what it does is it reduces it to 25 steps from 37. And it changes, increases a little bit. But how it shakes out, it ends up to be about a $20,000 difference from what was proposed on the civilian. Or what has already been said, I guess. Mary, did you say?
So on the counter proposal on the non-sworn pay is, right now the city pay matrix is set at 37 steps. So if you were hired into a position and you remained in that position, you would have to be employed by the city for 37 years until you would actually top out at what the range is on for that pay. So what we've done is tightened it up down to 25 steps and adjusted the percentage increases to help with our retention on the non-sworn side. And so step 1 through 6, getting to market is essentially the same as what's been built in the hybrid matrix currently. It's a 4% increase between each step. From 7 to 15, it drops down to a 1.25% increase, 16 to 21%, and step 21 to 25 with a 0.75% increase between each step. That way, like I said, it'll help with our retention. We currently have 6 positions open as well within the non-sworn staffing. It will be bringing the non-sworn employees fully into the police department. As we've had many discussions with the chief and over the years, is a recognition that the policing policing involves sworn and non-sworn, and we need to be just recognized as the one bargaining unit, and this allows us to better represent the full bargaining unit, which composes both sworn and non-sworn within the police department. So it's operating basically on kind of the same matrix as what they built with BDPA, but just tightens it up.
So you're starting your, I'm not sure where your grade's starting. A PD 24?
And that was just a numbering.
I'm trying to understand.
04.
So
so our parking attendant is 04, so I just made it a 24 because I don't think we have a 24 in the hybrid pay scale. Is that correct?
So you're saying your PD 24 is equivalent to an H04 for creation of the scale.
Correct.
So what is the difference between PD 31 to PD 32? What job matrix is that?
11 to 12. And when you go 11 to 12 on your hybrid matrix, it's approximately a 10% increase. When you go from H10 to H11.
And what about?
And so I just kept that the same.
What about a job matrix attached to this?
I can give you that. Basically, the jobs that are set at the H0 to H11 or H12, I guess right now is our high paying non-sworn job, would just be a transfer over.
So just so I make sure I got everything, you're changing the steps, you're changing the percentage, you're changing the percentage of increase between each steps. You're starting at a PD 24 and you'll have your own matrix.
We're setting, having our own matrix. Your market values are essentially the same as what BDPA had created. So we're still hitting market as defined by BDPA when they did the pay study.
I get it, Scott.
Okay.
And when you look at, and this is something that after step 6 in the current city hybrid pay scale, you're looking at less than a 0.5% increase from step 7 to, as you move from 6 to 7, and then up to 37, you have two steps, I believe it's 9 and 12, where you have a 1% increase. But other than that, you're looking at a 0.5% increase only every year. And that's not going to be the best way of retaining people when you're looking at such a, granted, we appreciate every increase possible, but that's not helping our retention as well. And so we do want to address that.
So again, I'm assuming because of there'll be a 2.5% CPI adjustment over and above all the other changes that you're proposing.
Correct. And when and again, my numbers are not going to be as complete, obviously, as Haley's, but when I cost that out, not including the benefits, it ends up being a little bit over 19,000.
Ashley?
Or Ashley, sorry.
You're fine.
I'm sorry.
I'm just making sure we don't have other numbers moving around. I'm like, I haven't seen those.
apologize.
I'm like, who?
But
I called her Heather once, so.
At least I'm at the table.
it doesn't. It runs about 20,000 on the non-sworn side, or less than 20,000 on the non-sworn side to move to the new scale.
Just for the 2.5%?
No, just for the placement on the chart.
Just for placement on the chart.
No, with the 2.5% include doing the 2.5% CPI, just basically building it on what the city was saying that they were going to use as their CPI for this year. So through, like I said, years 1 through 6 there's really no change. We're using the market values set by BDPA.
Well, we're currently at 3.25%, so your 20,000 is going to be low if you're calculating off of 4%. That's a 0.75%
What's your
difference.
3.25
is the difference between steps 1 and 5. That's for each step, so there's an incremental almost percentage increase.
Mm-hmm.
So I think your 20,000 might be a little low.
Well, I used their current numbers and what they're getting paid now, and then just made the adjustments to that. And then but that is also taken into account that we have had retirements and people who have left. So the cost savings was in that as well, based on the fact that we'd have people starting at a lower pay grade with the change in our lead. So I kind of took that into account as well. So just looking at where we are actually going to sit going into the next fiscal year. Because we've lost, well, we have 2 retirements coming up of people that are at the top of their pay scales. We had a senior dispatcher who left for another position, a retired senior dispatcher, so cost savings there is going to be significant going forward at this point.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure whether you did, if you mentioned Part 4.
Part 3.
Part 3 they accepted.
Part 3 we accepted. Part 4 we will deal with, I guess.
What does that mean?
We'll accept your.
I mean, you just rejected
Plan
it,
it.
so, I mean, we may formulate another proposal on that topic. We're just not prepared to do so today.
Okay, so you're not talking about Part 4 today.
No, I mean, it was just, we read that as just a straight rejection.
And Heather, I
If
can
it's
print
open,
out
we can talk about
I can
it.
print out the matrix as well.
It's okay,
So,
I get it, the basic concept.
Yeah, it's.
Okay, we'll go caucus unless anybody else has any questions. Thank you.
You want us to go to Paradise?
Door's not closed there. I think we're back up and running because the door closed.
Yeah, he said we were good.
Well, we've had an opportunity to go through and consider your counters to our 4-part offer. We're really unable to accept any of them and formally reject them. And I just want to say that basically you put us into a position that where we're at is where we're at. And we'll re-offer our 4-part proposal, and that's the proposal we're going to be building the budget on. And where we're at is where we're at.
Okay, we will lose people.
So absent anything more from your part, I think we're done.
Okay. As long as you guys understand, we will lose people and it will cost the city money in the long run. And if that's okay with you, I guess.
We
don't have a say in it.
understand the dilemma, but when there's no money to pay what you're asking for, there's nothing more that we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
We still have a room, or we don't have a room? We still have a room with you, or we don't have?
You can share that.
Yeah.